So this is what we're making. Stackable rings with 1mm round wire. And in this case, just little index bumps to hold them in place. So that if we're using 2 rings to make one shape, then it'll be lined up correctly. You could do pretty much anything that you want. Be creative. I'm going to use 1mm round wire for this, and each one of these pieces will be 100 millimeters long, 10 centimeters. Now, the fun thing about these small stackable rings is the ease at which they're made, the small amount of material necessary. So this is roughly $1 worth of silver. It's 0.9 grams, 1mm round, 100 millimeters long. Now, what you probably want to do is draw full scale what you want to make. Now, the fun thing with wire, and I'll zoom in a bit, is it's so easy to work that if you can draw it, you can make it. So the diameter of my ring is 1876, so plus 1 millimeter, 19.76 times 3.14, 62 millimeters. So I'm just going to mark that on my paper so that I know what I have to work with. Now, the thing about these little rings is if you just have one design instead of a lot, then it's quite easy to do. So I thought if I made a couple of bumps like that, and then by using my lines, if I made a V like that, then when I put the two of them together, it's a heart. Now what you could do is you could make another V, and those two V's would go together like a chevron. Basically, if you can draw it, you can make it out of wire. So what I'm going to do first is try to make this one with the 2 bumps. And I think what I'll do is use my round and cupped pliers for this. So we want our wire to be straight. And this wire is half hard, so it's quite easy to form with your fingers. So I'm just going to grab this roughly in the middle, because it's that way we'll have our ends away from our design. So I'm just going to give this a bit of a bump. Then I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, bend that back up, and make another little bit of a bump close to that. And then I'm going to straighten the ends back out, and I'll just do this by using my parallel jaw pliers, because we want these wires to be straight. So that's the two tops of my heart. You can see that it's pretty much like this. Now for the V part, and I have a roll of 1 millimeter wire, and like I say, it does take such a small amount of wire to make these things. Instead of playing with the copper that I normally do, I'll just make this one out of the silver. So what I want is a nice sharp V. Same thing, I'm using my parallel jaw pliers. And then I'll grab it there and straighten it out. So now we have the bottom part of the heart, just a V shape, and you can see that it is actually the size that I drew on the paper. So now when we make our rings and we put them together, you can see that it will be a heart shape when the two of them line up together. Now what you could do is you could index these like 2 of these marks down here, so that when the rings line up, these marks go together and they'll actually hold it together. Or if you don't do something like that, then they'll turn slowly on their own and your original pattern won't line up anymore. It's up to you. It's fairly easy to do because you can see when you have these lined up correctly, it would be quite easy to make a V or a half round mark or pretty much anything where they fit together exactly and they'll hold themselves in place. So this is my length, and my index lines need to be somewhere inside this area. Now I have the wires lined up, so what I'm going to do is here, about 8 millimeters from the end, I'm going to mark so that I get my bumps lined up exactly. And I'm going to use the I'm going to use the round and the curved pliers, so that when I grab these, I can just push at the mark, and I'll just lever this down against the edge of the pliers so that I'll have this perfect bump in the exact spot. So now there's that, and I want to do the same thing with the other one. Push it down the same way, and then you can see when those two marks line up, I'll just hold it in my fingers. When these two marks line up, holding themselves together, the heart shape will then be visible. So now we'll just cut this to length, and we know the length. I would just cut it with side cutters, file it, form it around, solder it, and then you'll have your stackable rings indexed so that they hold themselves in the proper position. So hold your ring joint up in your third hand, just a small amount of flux, a small amount of solder, About 1 millimeter long is all you need. And I'm going to pick solder. Neutral flame. Heat your solder pick until it's red. Keep it red. Pick up your solder. Heat the join. Place the solder and the solder will flow. Quench it and pickle it. And then do the next one. Quench it in water. Take the rings out of the pickle, rinse them in water, dry them off, round them up on the ring mandrel with your rawhide hammer, but round them as little as possible because we don't want to stretch our marks out. So just gently hammer them up. And if they're a bit wonky, you can just take your bench block, put them on, straighten them out with your rawhide hammer, then check that they're round. Just look at the end and you can see just a hair more on that one. Now I have a little bit of a bump from the solder. I used just a shade too much solder, so as gently as you can sand this back, and I'm using 400 grade paper on my sanding stick, and I'm just going to hold it in my fingers so that I can do the smallest amount of damage possible. We don't want to change the profile of the wire. We just want to get it as smooth as we can. Now do your second ring, same way, on the ring mandrel, on the bench block. Get it as nice as you can get it. And when you get the rings so that they're tidied up the way you want them, I would tumble them rather than put them on the polishing wheel, although you could just gently polish them on the wheel. And then when you have them polished, put them on. If you put your index marks in place, they'll hold your ring in the position that you want it. So you can see, with these lined up, I have a heart shape.